Joining us now, though, is our first guest. It's Mark Meckler, president of Citizens for Self-Government, co-founder of Tea Party Patriots. Hello, Mark. How are you?
I am excellent. A little bit concerned about the Capitol, but other than that, it's a bright day in America.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take you up on explaining that in a second, or what you meant. But yeah, obviously that event is over. We do have one injured police officer and apparently one dead suspect, and a female who led the police on a car chase to the Capitol from the White House. We'll get more information, so hopefully you'll be able to bear with us if they start the press conference. But you said it's a bright day in America. You're referring to the government shutdown?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not that I'm excited by the fact that the government is shut down, but I am excited by the fact that somebody's actually finally standing up for the American people. I mean, it's really extraordinary to see politicians in Washington, D.C., who are actually doing the will of the people who sent them there to fight the good fight.
Yeah, and, it's we had the president today. Well, let's start with yesterday. I mean, meeting with the leaders of the Congress and basically telling them the same things he told Boehner on the phone the day before, which was, I'm not going to negotiate. I'm not going to negotiate with you. So, where do you see this going? You are on the side of the Republicans who are standing firm, or I mean, would you like to see them acquiesce in any way, shape, or form? And how far would you like to see them take this?
Well, first of all, to be clear, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm not on the side of the Republicans per se. I'm actually on the side of the American people, and this is the extraordinary thing to me about the narrative being driven across the country. I've done lots of interviews, and almost every journalist, you haven't done this, but almost every journalist asked me the question, do you think it's okay for the Republicans to be shutting down the government?
Well, that's insane because they're not.
Well, they're not, and beyond that, they're actually representing the majority of the American people. The majority of the American people have never supported Obamacare. There's never been beyond 51 support for Obamacare, 51% support. Today, support is at an all-time low. So you've got a party, you've got some people who are actually standing up for the will of the American people. The question that I have for the media and for the Democrats is, when will one Democrat, stand up and stand for the majority of the American people? As I see it, no Democrats are actually standing for the American people.
Well, in my view, and I'm sure you will agree, it's not only are they not standing for the American people, they're standing against the American people. The Republicans have taken the initiative and have passed, as they call it, piecemeal. They passed funding for the National Institute of Health, which would help specifically kids and adults with cancer. And the Democrats will not touch that. They passed a bill to help the D.C. government, and we saw how vital the D.C. government is today in the actions at the Capitol, and they said no to that as well. Stay on hold for a second, Mark. We have the press conference now, Will. If we could pick that up. We have the Capitol Police conference. Let's listen in.
That lockdown has been released. We have no information that this is related to terrorism or is anything other than an isolated incident.
Which is the condition of the vehicle?
We are working, the Metropolitan Police Department is handling the shooting scene investigation and obviously assisting the Secret Service and the U.S. Capitol Police.
How many people in the vehicle?
We are still investigating that possibility. We believe there was a child in the car, and we're still collecting those facts.
Was the police officer shot?
I don't have a condition on the person in the car at this time.
What about you? Is there any about the police officer to this emergency, sir?
Pardon me?
Is there any plan to secure different locations of the federal government, like White House, Capitol, in case of this incident?
No. This appears to be an isolated incident with this one vehicle involved. There's been coordination between all the agencies that I just mentioned, including the FBI. So both scenes are under control. And again, I do not have that.
Chief,
right
the
now.
condition of the injured officer?
On the way, as I mentioned, one of our officers was struck in his scout car. He appears to be conscious and breathing, but we're following up.
And no officer shot, Chief?
As far as we know, no officer has been shot.
Chief, there was a lady involved in that?
Pardon me?
The driver of the other car was a lady, was a woman?
We believe so.
Chief Down, where were shots fired? At the White House and here?
We're still investigating that. Obviously, we have multiple scenes.
All right,
so
we could dump out of this because obviously, and we're talking with our guest Mark Meckler, president of Citizens for Self-Government, co-founder of Tea Party Patriots. We're not learning anything significant. He's not even confirming that there was a child in the vehicle, not even confirming that the, as we had heard earlier, that the woman who was the suspect is dead or alive. So there's not much information, so I don't think it's worth staying in there for that. So, Mark, let's get back to you for a second. And I was talking about how the Democrats and Harry Reid have gone to the point of refusing to even pass anything that the Republicans put forward to keep various parts of the government running that would help the American people, including the National Institute of Health, where yesterday Harry Reid, when asked by Dana Bash, but if you could save one child who has cancer, why wouldn't you do it? And he said, why would we want to do that? He said, I have people on furlough at an Air Force base in Nevada, and they have their own problems. Well, now he's trying to walk that statement back, but that was the height of, I don't even know what to call it, ignorance, arrogance, disgrace. But that's where the Democrats are right now. And I know you don't want to get political, but they could keep various parts of the government running, but they don't even want to do that.
No, and I'm happy to get political. I'm working on a piece right now. I actually believe what you're seeing evidence of, is the Democrats are actually at war with the American people. They know the American people don't support them. They know the American people don't support Obamacare. Yet, if you go all the way back to the beginning of Obamacare, they started, Nancy Pelosi obviously famously saying, you have to pass the bill to see what's in it. Now we've seen what's in it. We like it even less. They just don't care. They are at war. They are at odds with the American people. The American people want the parks open. The veterans show up at the World War II Memorial. Amazingly, in order to shut down that memorial, you've probably been there, they have to use federal funds and federal personnel to shut it down. I've been there a dozen times. I've never seen a federal employee at that memorial. But they actually spent our money during a shutdown to shut that thing down. That is in order to punish the American people. And you can read story after story across the country now of things they're shutting down that they don't have to, but they intend to punish the American people. And I think the American people are seeing right through it, Steve. That's the good part.
Yeah, I got a story about Mount Vernon, I believe, where Mount Vernon, which is private property, they've got a barricade and a sign on that as well. So you're absolutely right. Now you are also, of course, as in your role as co-founder of Tea Party Patriots, you are suing. You're leading a class action lawsuit against the IRS. We should never forget about that, what that scandal's all about, or Benghazi, or the other things that have gone on in this administration, and get sidetracked. We're all sidetracked by the news of the day, which with this administration seems to be one disaster after the next. But talk about the status of that lawsuit and how many groups you're representing in that suit.
Sure. We were on the phone with the plaintiffs yesterday. This lawsuit was filed. The lead plaintiff is the NorCal Tea Party versus the IRS. There are 21 named plaintiffs in the litigation right now. It's actually the only litigation in the nation that's a class action filed against the IRS for its targeting and abuse of not only Tea Party groups, Christian groups, Constitution groups, Liberty groups, pro-Israel groups, all these people that didn't agree with administration policies. Again, what we're seeing, going back to the same theme, this is the war of the government against people who disagree with it. And so that litigation is now in federal court in Ohio. Amazingly, right when the president started calling the IRS scandal a quote-unquote phony scandal, at that point the government moved to dismiss the case. Even though they've admitted wrongdoing, they moved to dismiss the case, saying that there is no case. So we're proceeding with that. The lawyer that we've hired is a former U.S. attorney, a federal prosecutor, a tough guy. We've told him to treat this like a criminal prosecution. We're going to prosecute these IRS employees like the criminal thugs they are. And if people want to know about that litigation, they can learn more about that at suetheirs.com.
Yeah, and talk about the Convention of States as well.
Well, Stephen, as you watch what's going on in Washington, D.C., we sent a huge class of really good men and women to Washington, D.C. in 2010. A lot of people thought we would see a lot of change. We didn't. And I don't believe we will. I think we should continue to try and elect good men and women that go to D.C. on our behalf, but I don't believe they're going to change things. The system is stacked against the people. The real question in this country right now is the question of who decides. And the underlying premise in every debate we have at the national level is that somehow these decisions should be made in Washington, D.C. The reason for that is because the federal government has become this vast leviathan that the founders never anticipated and that the people really don't want. This week, 60% of Americans, according to Gallup, said that the federal government is too big. I can do math pretty well, and that's not all Republicans, it's not all conservatives, and it's not all Tea Partiers. That's the large majority of the American public. The only way to restrain the federal government is through a little gem that the founders gave us in Article 5 that allows us to bring an amending convention for the purpose specifically of restraining the power, jurisdiction, and scope of the federal government. So we have a project. People can check that out and volunteer at conventionofstates.com, and we are organizing just such a convention.
All right. Well, I hope people do that, Mark, and I thank you very much for your time and for putting up with the break to the update from the Capitol Police. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
My pleasure. Mark Meckler, ladies and gentlemen, president of Citizens for Self-Government, co-founder of Tea Party Patriots, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. I do want to let you know of another story which I have not seen reported. It's an AP story. But I've been watching I have the cable stations on, but I have the sound on CNN ever since I got here today, about almost 4